Welcome back to Rollin' with Olin. I'm Jeff Olin. This podcast is sponsored by Source and Cast. Sourceandcast.com. Great for all background actors across the globe. So let's get into this. Today's guest is Rob Korn, a behind-the-scenes Hollywood TV veteran. And also, he has spent decades producing and directing major network dramas, especially in the medical genre. Rob and I met in 2005 when I was invited into a meeting with him, producer Ann Kinberg, and director, producer, actor, writer Peter Horton. That meeting was for a little show created by Shonda Rhimes and starring Ellen Pompeo by the name of Grey's Anatomy. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you remember that meeting at all? Probably not.
No, I do. In my head, at least, I can imagine sitting probably in Peter's office and sitting around having the conversation and not understanding that what was going to happen with that show at the time. We were just doing our thing to get a show made, and explosions happened after that.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect you to remember much about that meeting, but for me, it was a big deal. Possibly getting another TV series for my agency, but also because Peter Horton from 30-something was going to be in the room. And Ann Kinberg, I had worked with her a few times prior, and she told me, to meet you guys over at ABC Prospect for a meeting. It was a meeting of the minds. I remember walking out of there, and you gave the thumbs up, and Peter gave the thumbs up, and it's history.
So this is the part I don't remember. So you were called in by Ann.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. I had done I think, and I'm not sure if the timing's right, but we had done the pilot of Brothers and Sisters. We had also done the Sleeper Cell together. We had done a couple of things. So Ann she had brought me in. I was just excited, and what a great run! What a great run we all had.
Yes.
So I couldn't.
And for some, it's still going.
Yeah. For about 5, right? 5 of them. Maybe still with it.
I would really need to look at a crew list. Like off the top of my head, I can think of 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, Linda Klein.
There's some people I guess if you're talking about from the beginning, then it's probably that. I mean, but the 2 actors, Jim and Chandra.
Oh, Chandra, right.
Linda, there's a couple of construction people and a couple of grip and electric that I think are still hanging in there. Yeah. Bo Baker, sound mixer.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah, he's still there.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, great people, and I want to get into that a little bit more later. So Rob, you're a pretty private guy. Usually for my shows, I go down the rabbit hole of the internet, and didn't find a lot about you, but I know about you a little bit.
Speak to my publicist.
Yes, your wife. So what the internet doesn't know, the show will find out. I know you're a fellow Leo, which I never knew. So Happy pre-birthday, August 12th.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody send their gifts.
Actually, other people have told me that there is, when they try and find me on the internet, there's a picture of another guy that's up there. And the age says 44 or something, and people come to me and say, "You're not 44." I said, I didn't put this. I have nothing to do with any of that, but I've heard this before, and you're right. I'm not 44.
Yeah, no, you're not 44, but you look good for 45.
Thank you.
Rob, where did you grow up? Tell me about your childhood.
I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I'm a Valley kid. The north end of the Valley. Went to public schools there. Had some acquaintances in school that turned out had a connection to the film or television business. I had no interest in any of this. This has all sort of been an accident, and I was very into sports. I loved playing baseball and basketball. When it turned out my skills weren't at the level of actually competing against other people, I went into coaching because when you can't do, teach.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. But it was a quiet life in the San Fernando Valley. My parents owned a little furniture store in an area called Panorama City
Sure.
that is the area's changed so much in all the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped out in this little mom and pop furniture store, and helped deliver furniture and clean the store, and whatever else was needed. So it was a quiet suburban childhood.
Nice, nice. Only if I knew that when I first met you. No, I'm just joking. You say it's getting into the industry, kind of you weren't really thinking about it, but then an accident and whatever. But nice accident
Yes,
happening.
and there are many people that helped me along the way that without their a vision of seeing something in me that I didn't know was there, I, I would not be talking to you right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, you've come a long way since being an intern on Jaws 3D in 1983. Rob,
Yes.
is that where you kind of started saying, okay, this is cool. I like it.
Well, the job I did prior to Jaws 3 was I'm thinking now the order. The first thing I ever did was a movie called Southern Comfort that a director named Walter Hill directed, um, and that came about. I was teaching and coaching a local private high school in the valley, and a friend of mine who comes from a film family, his name's Bob Rowe, AD and producer. He's now retired, good for him. But his brother Bill is a cameraman, started as a cameraman.
Rural.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Bill Rowe, now the producing director on The Rookie.
Yeah.
And their father was a AD, producer, production manager for years and years and years. I mean, my claim to fame for him, for me, was he did Willy Wonka, the original Willy
Oh,
Wonka. So it's like, ugh. But
crazy. Yeah.
we were our families were very close. Jack, the father, was my Goyim father. That's what we used to call him. Uh, and his son Bob was doing this movie Southern Comfort as the second AD, and he called me and said, "Would you like to be PA on this?" And
Wow.
I said, "Oh, well,
What do
I
I
don't
need to
know.
do? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything." And the only, and I figured it would just be I'll go do this job and learn about it, and then I'll come back and I'll do my coaching and get back. I was also running a baseball camp for boys at the time, for boys and girls, um, uh, in the Valley and in Orange County. We had two places, but anyways. I said to Bob, the only way I'll do this is if you promise me if I'm not doing it the way I'm supposed to do it, you'll fire me. There's no hard feelings. You're giving me an opportunity. If I'm not doing it right, eh. So he said, okay, fine. And we went, it was filming in Bossier City, Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
The production manager, producer, a gentleman named Gene Levy, who unfortunately is no longer with us,
Mm.
he asked me to drive his car across country, and I did that. Um, and at the time, they had given me $500 to drive cross country for gas and food
Wow.
and hotel and all that. This was 1980, and
Yeah.
and
Good money, right? Good
yeah,
money then.
oh,
Yeah.
and uh, when I arrived in Bossier City, I went into the production office, found the person I was supposed to, and I handed them back $350. And they said, what, what
Yeah.
did I said, I bought gas and I bought some
Honest
fuel
Rob.
and I stayed at Motel Sixes. It's not my money, it's your money. So the production coordinator thought that was very cute. Um, and she gave me the keys to my room. I went to my room. There were two double beds in there. I came back to her and said, "Who am I sharing a room with?" Which she thought was even more cute because I knew nothing. She said, "No, that's your room. We just had two double
Oh
beds."
my God.
But my first real lesson was a few days later. I was walking around the production office or something outside, and this big mitt of a hand landed on my shoulder. I won't tell you names, but it was a Teamster who looked me in the eye and said, "When they give you $500, you come back with $750 worth of receipts." I said, "What?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
I, yeah,
those things happen. They don't happen everywhere. This was a Louisiana Teamster. I don't want to blame anybody,
sure.
but those were the policies in those days.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
the
You
the
know,
other thing,
you mentioned Walter Hill.
uh-huh.
I did notice that you worked with him. I did Red Heat with him
Ah,
as a casting coordinator back in the day. But yeah, look, you've gone. I mean, you have really worked your way through the ranks from being an intern to a production assistant to a second assistant to a first assistant, whatever. I want to mention something. I'd love to hear about it. You were a second assistant director, I believe, on Michael Jackson's music video Thriller.
that's
Tell
correct.
us about that a little bit, Rob. That
Wow.
had to be interesting.
Yeah, uh, I honestly don't remember all that much. I just remember very rarely having any interaction with Michael Jackson. Um, it was more me setting the background and dealing with the dancers and getting them ready and all of that. And
No.
John Landis was the director, and so he dealt mostly with Michael. And the first AD, a gentleman named David Sosna, um, he dealt with Michael more. What I do remember pretty clearly was there were major crowds that
Hmm.
we had to push off down the block 3 blocks, but you could still hear them screaming on the other side of the yellow tape. So that's really like the main thing I remember. There. Here's the one story that has nothing to do with Michael particular. Well, it does. It has to do with Michael, but we were shooting the scene where all the zombies come up from the graves
Hmm. Yeah.
and appear, and it was like in a warehouse in Fontana or something like that. And Michael's trailer was always parked somewhere away from everybody else. So at this warehouse, they had deserted railroad tracks behind the stage, so he could sneak out the back of the stage and go to his trailer and not be bothered by anybody. But you could also get to it from around the warehouse and drive up the train tracks if you wanted. So the first AD and I are standing outside waiting for a lighting setup, and we see this car pull up and drive around the to the railroad tracks toward his trailer. And the first AD, "Oh my God, somebody's way back there. We don't know who go find out who that is and get him out of there." And his hair on fire. And so I go around, and there's a car parked there, but nobody's in sight. I knock on the door just to find out if everything's okay. The door opens, and standing from me to you right now, this close, was Jacqueline Kennedy,
Wow.
who was there because she and Michael were doing something editorially, a book or something like that.
Oh my.
But it was like looking at a picture of Life magazine of her
Yeah.
being on,
Yeah.
and that in all these years, maybe that looking back, one of the top 3 times I was sort of come, I didn't
Right.
know what to say.
Frozen.
Yeah,
Frozen. Right. I
frozen.
mean, how
You know,
can you not be?
yeah. So I went back, told the first AD. She came in and toured the sets and stuff. Got, the crew all got to see her, and then she left. But
Amazing.
that's one thing that I really remember specifically. How can you forget that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
that's, I mean, if you didn't work on that video, that
yeah,
would never have happened. It's
yeah,
a pinch me moment, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
like,
oh
oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, who knew Thriller was going to be what it
Yeah.
became?
Right. 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 Well, who knew a lot of things.
Yeah,
Like in 1982, you were also a production assistant on the feature film 48 Hours.
correct.
For the audience, most everybody knows 48 Hours with Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy, Annette O'Toole, and Walter Hill also directed that one.
Once again,
So,
and
what had happened? You had gotten to know him, obviously, on the first one, or was it who
yes.
brought you in?
So it's a sort of semi long story, but
It's okay.
uh,
I have all day.
good. So on Southern Comfort, um, Gene Levy and Walter were unbelievably supportive of me. Um, Walter, if you've dealt with him, is a really tough guy. He acts really tough. He is
Hmm.
like he's a
Yeah.
cowboy. He
Yeah.
so and he has nicknames for things, or at least he did back then. His director's chair was his motorhome. So he'd say, "Corn, give me my motorhome and bring it over here." Or you know, or he'd say, "Where's my heater?" Which meant his cigar. Somebody
Yeah.
had to give him a cigar. Have my rocket pointed out and loaded, which meant his car leaving where we were
Right.
filled with beer. That's what all those things meant. So we're out in the middle of the swamps one day, and Walter's in his motorhome on his chair, sitting in the middle of the swamps, and starts screaming at me. He needs a heater. He wants his cigar. And I'm trying to find the prop guy who has the cigars in a little ditty bag somewhere. And I mean, if we're in the middle of the swamp, so the prop guy says, "Yeah, it's behind that tree. There's 5,000 trees," and and you can edit this out, but they have, the little trees that just came up above the water a little bit. We called them dickwood. So he said, "It's behind that dickwood over there."
I love it.
So
This is a
so
podcast, so we don't need to edit anything out.
okay, so Walter is screaming. It's echoing through the swamps. Corn, why is this taking so long? Why is this taking so long? I finally find it. I come running up to him, sweat pouring off of me. I hand him the cigar, and he leans over quietly and whispers in my ear, "Thank you, Rob."
Wow.
That's all I needed to know about this guy. And we got along. I wasn't afraid of him. He wasn't, I knew what his act was, and we got along. Okay, so then comes 48 Hours. And the same gentleman, Gene Levy, is the production manager producer, and Walter obviously is directing it. And Gene tells the ADs that are different from Southern Comfort, "You're hiring this PA." And both of them sort of went, "We hire our own PAs. We don't, please," because in those days it was a first AD, a second AD, and a PA. There wasn't 500 PAs. There wasn't seconds. There wasn't, unless there's something really big that you needed some crowd control far away. It was just the three. So the second AD, a woman named Deborah Love, said, "Sorry, we hire our own." And Gene says, "Excuse me, you're going to meet this guy, and I'm telling you, you're going to love him." And so I went into this meeting, and turns out they ended up hiring me. And so from 1982, 81, 82, somewhere in there on 48 Hours to the current day right now, I've been working for Deborah Love because we ended up getting married years after that. So that introduction led to our relationship.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, no, I was going to bring that up, figuratively and otherwise. you really did find love on the set, didn't you?
Yes, yes. And it was a long journey. I mean, it wasn't. We were friends for a long time, and we ended up on Jaws 3D also together.
Mhm.
Um, and then as years went by, and she became a first AD, she would hire me as her second AD, and we were lucky enough to travel the world and do
It's
stuff.
amazing.
Um, but
Amazing.
but uh, going back to 48 Hours for a second, Gene Levy and Walter, they were completely responsible for me getting into the DGA by the way they
Hmm.
handled getting me my days to count and all of that stuff. So I am so grateful for them for, like I said, seeing something in me that I didn't know I had. I didn't study film in school.
Yeah.
I had to pick it
Yeah.
all up, and I was trained by a lot of great people.
Yeah. Well, it's you and I both know that this industry is a lot of like kind of who you know, and then once you get with certain people, it works along. We have a lot to cover just because of um, just some of the stuff. I'm just gonna rattle off a few things, and I want to get into. I want everybody to know a little bit more. You were an assistant director also on Three Amigos.
Yes.
He's been an assistant director on Weird Science,
Yep.
NYPD Blue, and Chicago Hope, and we could go on and on. But you moved your ways through the ranks, and in approximately the late '80s, you became the first AD of NYPD Blue and Chicago Hope.
Correct.
Um, and and then you continued on. You were doing a lot. You went from being a first AD to unit production manager. And I just want to mention. Well, I want to ask you first of all, how did you transition from a first AD on Chicago Hope into becoming a production manager on Chicago Hope? And you did at least 78 episodes.
As a production
As
manager.
a production manager, yes, that's what it says on
Okay.
IMDb.
Yeah, I believe it then. Here's what
Makes me
happened.
laugh too. No,
Yeah. Here's what
I mean I
happened.
have to do my homework, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So um, I was the first AD on the pilot and first episode of NYPD Blue. At that point in my life, even though I hadn't really pursued any advancement, I just sort of advanced by, okay, you have enough days, now you're this. Okay. Um, and I was lucky enough to land in places that thought I was doing okay and they would do stuff. So, anyways, I won't mention names once again, though I've spoken to this producer many, many times and he knows who he is. I went to on NYPD Blue and said, I want to do more. What can I do more? And they said, like produce or something. I said, yeah, I want to learn how to do that.
Oh,
So a few days went by and he came back and he said, sorry, there's no openings here for that. So I could have done one of two things. I could have stayed at NYPD Blue and been a first AD forever. I mean, they were on for 14 or 15
yeah.
seasons. But I decided to leave there. And just after that, I get a phone call from a director that I've worked with before as a first, Michael Pressman. And he says, I'm directing this medical pilot for David Kelly. Would you first AD it? And I said, sure, I'm not doing anything. I'm in. So I then, this whole conversation with Michael during the pilot, I said, I want to learn to do more. And Michael said, then you have to be a production manager. And I
Wow.
said, I don't want to be a production manager. He said, but you have to because you have to learn the budgets and you have to learn equipment and you have to learn how to deal and hire and fire and da da da. If you want to be a producer, you have to just understand it. And so I said, but the production manager is the guy everybody hates because they're always saying no. He said, well, you'll figure out the best way to do this.
Yeah,
So evidently I did 78 episodes as a production manager on
did.
on
You did.
Chicago, surrounded by great people. And the line producer on the show, Jim Hart, he decided to leave at a certain point. And at that point, the executive producers, who at that time were, I believe, were Bill D'Elia and John Tinker,
Mm-hmm.
they said, "We want you to be the line producer. Hire another production manager because we know you don't
Wow.
like being production manager." And one of the reasons the main reason I didn't like being a production manager is because you never knew exactly what was going on set minute by minute. I could
Yeah.
watch a rehearsal in the morning, but then I had to go back to the office and
Yeah.
sign time cards and hire people and prep the next episode and all that. And I'd look at dailies and I said, when did they do that shot? As a first AD, you're right in the middle of it, and that's what I loved. So, anyways, I moved up to line producer, and at that point, I once again took the incentive to go to the executive producers and say, I'm sort of embarrassed by this, but I keep going in and talking to the Lou Antonios, the Jim Frawleys, these directors that have done hundreds of episodes, and saying to them, you don't need that shot. Let's go. We got to hurry up, blah, 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 and doing the line producer thing. So if there were ever an opportunity for me to direct, I would love the opportunity just so it'll make me a better producer, to understand what being in those shoes means when a producer comes to you and says, blah, 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 blah. So they generously gave me an episode to direct, liked what I did, and that one became two, became three, become 4 or 5 on Chicago Hope. So my growth on Chicago Hope was first AD on the pilot, all the way to directing the final episode of the series. So for me, it was an unbelievable growth, an unbelievable experience. And, I can't, there's no way to repay those people that gave me the opportunity to be there and to achieve
It
stuff.
it's an incredible climb to the top. And a lot of the names that you're mentioning along as you've been talking here, a lot of those names are people that I remember. A lot of people I would be reaching out to in my early career and going, hey, whatever, because we don't really know who to reach out to.
Right,
There's so
right.
many producers, so many people that are involved, but you've produced and executive produced here's some more numbers for you. You probably know this.
I
Well
do.
over well over 500 episodes of network television. With those hours under your belt, Rob, what what still surprises you about the process?
Well, that's a good question. The process itself, I don't think has changed between 1980 and now. You still have to do the
Mm-hmm.
same things. I mean, the technology may be different. It's digital and not film. The cameras are smaller. There's streaming and network. But the process itself in my head is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
You scramble to find a job, and you hopefully do something correctly, and they'll keep you around. Um, uh, yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting anything when I went in. That's the whole thing.
mm-hmm.
I was a blank slate.
Yeah,
So what all these people from the names I've mentioned to um, very clearly on Southern Comfort, I was the PA and I was in charge of base camp, amongst other things. I would get the actors from their trailers to the makeup trailer. The makeup artist on that show, a gentleman named Mike Germain, I will never be able to repay him. He trained me how to do what I was, to get him the actors when he needed them, and he was a character.
yeah.
But looking back all these years later, I can see the moments that these people took me under their wing and gave me some knowledge that I was able to use and benefit from.
Yeah, the more you mention Southern Comfort, something pops into my head, and it's possible I'm going to double check, but I forget what year that was. I know I just brought that up,
Yeah,
but
it was 1980.
1980. Okay, So you said you were wrangling, I believe, at some point in time, the background. I think, and if I'm correct, and I may not be correct, but Sally Pearl, does that name ring a bell to you?
Yes, yeah, that
Yeah,
that
I
name
think it
is
was Sally Pearl Casting. Because I worked with her before I even started any kind of agency. So I think so, but I'm going to double check that.
okay.
But anyways, I want the audience also know that not only have you been a producer, an executive producer for over 500 episodes, like I said, of network television, Rob, you've also directed close to 100 episodes now of television. That's that's impressive. I mean, really impressive.
Uh, Once again, I was very lucky. On between Chicago Hope and Grey's Anatomy, there were some minor successes, there were major failures, there were all the things that happen in this business that if you don't experience those things, you're missing something.
Yeah,
Even the failures, from the failures you learn. It's what I teach my children. You can't
I
always
love your
win.
children.
Thank you.
You know, I
Um,
know them.
yeah, yeah, they're pretty good kids.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're doing good.
Although they're not kids anymore. Uh,
Right.
yeah. Um, uh, I forgot my chain of thought now. So I learned things from all these people and
Hmm.
whatnot. And so
Well, let me ask you this. Let me
right.
ask you this. Of course, you learned, and maybe you can explain, Rob, how a producer and director who's been around for many decades now. What's the How do you become part of the creative infrastructure of these shows?
Well, but just by proving yourself. I mean, because the line producer is sort of on the edge of the creative side.
Hmm.
Um, uh, when I became the line producer on Grey's from the pilot, I just pushed my way into the creative meetings, and I would just sit there quietly. And if there was an opportunity for me to raise something that may be helpful or not, I would. And the people around me were open to the suggestions. Uh, when Peter Horton left Grey's Anatomy, and I became uh, the producing director in his stead. I always, because of my background, had a credit that was produced by,
Hmm.
because that was the only produced by credit that you'd see in the credits. You'd see
Hmm.
500 different producers, and executive producers and co-executive producers and associate producers and all that, but there was only one produced by, and that became a sticking point for Shonda and Rhimes and Betsy Beers, because they didn't feel that, on my behalf, they didn't feel that my creativity was being seen by those at the studio or the network or whatever, because it said produced by, so they just think
Yeah,
it's the line producer.
producer.
So they said to me, "You have to have. We want to give you an executive producer credit, so they know that you're doing." And I said, "I don't want that. There's 75 executive producers." And they finally twisted my arm, and I took that. And all of a sudden, somehow, I'd get a call from the studio person handling the show and say, "What is happening with this?" And blah blah blah. And they recognized that I had a creative side to me, not just production, and
Yeah,
hiring and
yeah.
firing and scheduling.
No, that's wonderful. So when you're asked by like Shonda and Betsy and people like that, and you don't need to get into facts and figures here, but you become an executive producer and you're a line producer and also directing. I mean, do you get a paycheck for all of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Grace, and I don't think this was uh, um, a deliberate maneuver, a deliberate move, but normally on a television series, there's a producing director, a line producer, and a production manager.
Hmm.
So when Peter was there, he was obviously the producing director. I was the line producer, and another gentleman named Jeff Raffner was the
Mm-hmm.
production
Yep.
manager. And when Peter left, nobody was replaced. So I sort of became the producing director, line producer, and Jeff Raffner became the production manager, line producer. So it was only two of us handling the job of three people that normally do it. And
Yeah.
and then on top, I was directing. So I just had to manage my time in a way that I could be available to whomever needed my help. In terms of if I was directing and Jeff had locations or budgeting things, I would get there early and I would leave late. That's
Yeah. Well,
so.
you guys were working hard. I know that.
Yeah,
And
so,
what a
and it
great
was.
what a
It
great
was,
run.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It was terrific, and it wasn't the easiest show to do with lots of balls in the air all the time, and but we got through it, and they're there. They're still going strong.
We got right. They're still going right. They just got picked up for another. What is this like season 500?
Yeah, 500,
No, about
almost
27, 28, maybe.
almost as many as I've produced as a.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
I
was
think
on
I think it's
16,
20, I think it's 24 maybe.
24. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, we were on 16 solid until the pandemic, and that's a
got
whole
it.
nother story. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so with all this that you've done, and now I'm going to read this because it's a lot of info here. In 1994, Rob, you won a Directors Guild of America award for NYPD Blue. In 1995, 1996, 1997, nominated for an Emmy for Chicago Hope. Nominated for Emmy Awards a few different times on Grey's Anatomy, and you won the PGA Award for Grey's Anatomy in 2007 and 2008, and also Grey's Anatomy won a People's Choice Award. Wow. Um, award. Do you prominently have any of these displayed?
There are some that are sitting in my office on the other side of this camera, but
Okay.
those those things are not things that I strive toward. Those are group awards. No one person is responsible for being nominated or winning those awards. Like that, the Directors Guild Award for NYPD Blue. I was the first AD. Greg Hoblet was the director, so it was more Greg Hoblet than me. I mean,
Yeah.
I just happened to be on his coat strings, you know. But I obviously
Yeah.
helped in the process, and so the awards I'm never ever they're never in my sight. When I'm doing something, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to win, the Directors Guild Award or an Emmy. Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I'll be honest with you, there's 1 hour of television that I directed that I can't remember what it was for. That there was a write-up in the DJ magazine, I believe, that said I should that what they were predicting, and they predicted that I should win an award. And I was going like, "Whoa, how was that?" Like I said, I can't even remember what it was for. Um, but there from the directing perspective, there's a few shows that I'm really proud of that
Yeah.
that didn't win any awards. Didn't matter to me. I just know I'm proud of the work we all did, and it's in my memory.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of memory, looking back, what's like something you understand about making television now that's different than when you started? I know you alluded to this earlier, but there's got to be differences now, right, from the early days?
No,
Something?
like I said, the process is all the same. You get there in the morning, you rehearse. The actors have to get there ahead so they can get makeup and hair. You rehearse, and then this crew has to light, and the lighting time is different now. Maybe it's a little easier because of digital. The cameras are lighter now, so you can move around a little more. The style is different in a lot of cases. Streaming in particular has really gone to very gothic looking,
Yeah.
grand stuff. To you want to get that feature film look, on your
Yeah.
TV screen. Um, so, and in the same sense, from the production side, that I always have on my one shoulder is production, the other is director, whatever I'm doing, is you have to answer to a budget and to a time frame, and uh, you can't.
Yeah, talk about that for a second, about the pressure of answering to the showrunners, the actors, especially when you're dealing with some major actors, which you have. Talk about that. Like, take us into the room a little bit, like with these showrunners and what have you, and just the pressure that there must be, especially directing and producing,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
one.
You know, on a episodic television show or streaming is not quite the same. Although I've not done anything there, I've mainly been in network. Um, when you're doing a series, you're always doing three things at once. You're prepping a show, an episode, you're shooting an episode, and you're editing an episode. So the pressure is on everybody everywhere. The creator of the show, if they're usually very involved in the editing, they're very involved in the writing, so they have to split their times between those two things, running to the editing room and seeing what the show that just finished, what that looks like, prepping an episode, show that they're writing ahead, and the show that currently is shooting. So they have to keep the plates spinning for all those things. And my job is to help keep the plate spinning, whether it's the producer or producing director or even the director. You know, there were I directed a lot of finales for Grays,
Mhm.
and by the end of each season, I mean, we did a couple of seasons where we did 26, 27 episodes, and it is a it is it is
Grueling.
a race to the end. And by the time the season was coming to a close, the scripts would get a little further and further behind because you're just trying to keep up. But you have an air date schedule that you have to meet. So you have to get them done. So I would end up directing the last one, usually, not so much because I'm the guy that has to direct the last one. It was just to try and ease the pain for our crew and for the writers and for the actors, and try and figure out a way to manage the chaos that the end of the season brings. Just an example, the script may come out and we're supposed to start shooting in 2 days or whatever, and they need 47 pink elephants is what they're calling for, and the prop person's head is exploding, and we need him by 3 days. And I say, just come tell me. I'm directing. Just come tell me, and then I'll figure out. And I go to the writers and I say, do you really need that many pink elephants? We can. I'd say to the prop person, what can you get? And they tell me, and I tell the writers, and they'd say, yeah, that's okay. Do that. Or they'd say, no, we absolutely need the pink elephants because that's going to be the storyline. And so then we'd have to move the availability, when we were planning on shooting that, down the ways. And so it just became easier for me to juggle all of that stuff than have a visiting director in there being under fire
Yeah,
constantly.
yeah. So you were able to make that decision as the producer,
Right.
yeah. So yeah. I mean, I get it now. I'm sure the audience understands.
And at a certain point, Shonda came to me and said, I need more time off in between seasons.
Mhm.
And I said, well, then we shouldn't be producing this many episodes because it's all, you have this much time to do this many episodes and it has to be she said, well, what if we do simultaneous episodes? What if you get you two scripts and we'll have more time off and we'll finish
Nice.
the
That's the
season earlier.
crossovers. Uh
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah. But entire scripts crossover.
Mm, mm.
So I'd be directing on one stage and somebody else would be directing on another stage. And I said, that's really complicated.
Yeah.
We only have one set of stages and operating rooms and things, and we only have one set of actors. So when you write these scripts, you have to have Chandra Wilson only in this one, or small in one and heavy in the other, and you can't have actors being this. And I think I think they're still doing it. I'm not 100% sure, and they probably got better at it, but it was rough for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. No, I remember those days. There was a lot going on, and you talk about meetings. I mean, obviously with background actors, and those of us who cast them, we have to obviously attend a few meetings. But for you guys, unbelievable. And even when I would go to any kind of production meeting for any show, and knowing what you producers and directors are going through constantly, and especially in prep or shooting or back and forth.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's the hours are tremendous. When you're directing actors in like an emotional scene, and you've done that quite a few times, uh, what is it that you're looking for um, beyond the lines, like as a director?
Um, First of all, let me back up a little bit. Directors all have what's called a tone meeting with
Mm-hmm.
the writer. If the creator of the show wants to be there, they're there sometimes. Depends on the show. Some creators are there all the time, and you get the sense you go through the script and you get the sense of what each scene, the emotions, the intentions are being asked for by the writer. Because sometimes just the written word doesn't say it.
Mm-hmm.
So you listen very hard and take lots of notes in those meetings, and you try and share what you can, um, without stepping too much into the actor's method, because that could confuse them and just throw them completely off. So what I would normally do is I would let them do what they wanted to do first. I mean, what their instincts were, and more times than not, it's fine. Um, but if it's hard to, if you're expecting an actor to cry in a scene, if it's written on the page, they break down and cry, and they're just not doing it or can't get there or whatever. You have to come up with
Away.
a way to talk to them and say, think of whatever. Each director has their own methods of doing it. Um, when I started directing, that's the one thing that I was really panicked about, was communicating with the actors, and because I didn't go to acting school, I didn't take acting classes, I didn't do anything directing for actors and all of that stuff. And I went to Michael Pressman at the time, and he said, "Don't worry about it. It's not going to be a problem because you have good taste."
Nice.
And it took a while to understand what he meant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just, I've been fortunate to be with shows for a long time, so I sort of get the feel of the actors and what they can and can't accomplish, or what they want to do or not want to do, and uh, so I would approach it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So you've directed some of the biggest names in television: Ellen Pompeo, Malcolm Jamal Warner, may rest in peace; Mark Harmon, Chandra Wilson, Patrick Dempsey, Eric Dane, may he rest in peace. Uh, do you have any actors that really stick out that you really loved working with more than others?
Um, uh, I will say that Malcolm is pretty great to work with. Was pretty great to work with. May he rest in peace. Also,
Yeah.
um, um, the other person that was on the show with Malcolm, Matt Zuckery. I don't know
Hmm.
if you know who he is.
Hmm.
I just loved working with him.
Yeah.
He
On The Resident.
On The Resident, yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a great guy, and Emily Van Camp was great also in that
Yeah.
show. Um, uh, Chandra Wilson is a dreamboat.
Mm.
I haven't. It's been almost 10 years that I've been with Grays, and we still communicate. She's
Oh, that's
just
great.
She's just a sweetheart.
mm.
Um, I liked working with oh gosh, I just went blank. Um, Patrick, I liked working with Patrick
Yeah,
Dempsey. It just it depended on the day
yeah,
with him.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Whether he had the race car or not.
exactly. If he was wanting to get out for a racing gig,
Right.
um, uh, and things were going slowly, he was not happy.
Yeah.
But for
How
the
is
most
Sandra Oh?
Sandra Oh is fantastic also.
Yeah,
She is just also a dream. And the thing with her is she prepped so so fastidiously, and she was really knew what she wanted to do and what she wanted to say and how she wanted to do it, to a point where you as a director you ask for different colors in a scene. So one time it may be a little on the edge of funny, on the sarcastic, and you go to an actor and say, hey, can you try this one with a little less of that tone of, and
yeah.
I did that once with Sandra, and she looked me dead in the eye and said no. And I said, "You won't do another take?" But no, because I know what I've done, and I
She
like
like,
what I've done, and it's what should be done. And I don't want you to give you an option in the editing room to not have the scene that I wanted, the take that I wanted in. So I mean, she's smart,
yeah,
um, but because most actors will say, "Sure, I'll give you. Let's do another one.
yeah. Let's do
Let's
another.
play around with
Yeah,
it." But she just knew exactly the tone and what she wanted to say, and I admired her for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You've I mean, it is incredible for like you doing all these medical shows and everything. I'm just thinking about it. So they come to you. I mean, obviously because you've done them, right? Because you did Chicago Hope, you did Gray, so the resident came to you. I'm guessing.
Yes. And I'll tell you the story of Grey's Anatomy. Um, uh, but as I said, between Chicago Hope and Grey's, there was a lot of uh, successes and a lot of failures. Pilots that don't get picked up, series that don't go, and that kind of thing. So there was a series that I was the line producer on that was running completely out of control, and the studio wasn't happy, and the network wasn't happy, and I was the line producer. They called me and asked me what I would do, to get this back on track. I told them what I thought we should do. The head of production then called the executive producer and said, "This is what Rob thinks we should do." And I was let go the next day.
Oh,
It was not
oh,
fun.
no. Oh,
So, cut to, I'm now looking for another job. And my friend Jeff Raffner
hmm.
had just worked with Graham Yost, who's a
Oh, yeah,
who's a really big time writer producer. And he said he's doing a pilot. I want to set up a meeting for two. You two would get along so great. So I went to Pacific Palisades, that is no longer standing, and
yeah,
to his home. And we met, and he said, "Let's do this. This is fantastic. I really like you." And I said, "I really like you. So let's do it." It was for a pilot for Touchstone Television.
well,
And the head of Touchstone at the time is a gentleman named Barry Jawson, who I don't know if you remember.
remember the name? Yeah, I
Okay, so who I just ran into about 3 weeks ago for the first time, probably since this interaction with him, um, uh, and I shared the story with him. Anyways, uh, Graham Yost people called Barry Jawson's office and says we want Rob Corn to do it, and Barry says no. He can't do it. Your show is very similar to the show that he just got let go from in terms
mm,
of the tone and the pace and what they're doing and the action and all that. And so I just don't have faith in Rob to do it. And
mm,
and
mm.
I was so not the problem with that show.
Yeah, yeah,
um, it was completely way above my head what the
right.
problem with the show was. So I called Barry and he said, "I can't let you do it. I'm sorry. I want to, somebody else with more experience in this genre has to do it. Okay, so I'm disappointed and, moaning around the house all day. And another week goes by, 2 weeks, and phone rings, and Barry Jostin for me. And he says, I've got a show that I want you to go interview for. It's a medical show. I want you to meet with this woman, Shonda Rhimes, and her partner, Betsy Beers.
Wow. Wow.
So from there, the rest goes. So, but not for Barry Johnson making those decisions. I don't know where I would be. So once again, it's somebody else that's guided my journey here.
Well, I thank them because I got to
Oh
have
God,
that meeting with you.
believe me, I think them.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing story. You know, there's a lot to talk about. I don't think we're going to get it all in, but I may just rattle off a few things for you. You know, when you spend years on a show, and you've done that with three main series now. What's it like emotionally for you when you leave? I know you just said you're still friendly with like Chandra and probably other people, but
Right.
what is that for when you leave a show, the emotional effect that has on you?
It can be rough. I will say that Chicago Hope being the first one that I had done, and there's a sort of a full circle here, which I'll tell you. That was my first, so it's like the closest, most dear memories for me.
Yeah.
And that show just ended. I mean, it was the studio said, network said, you're canceled, not happening anymore, which is their prerogative. It's all good. When we had to wrap the sets from stages 17, 18, and 19 on the Fox lot, I couldn't be there because it was like the hospital was being torn down, which was
You had
more
to
to
just
me than just being torn. So I left
wow.
Jeff Raffner there to do it. And if there's any questions, call me, but I can't watch these sets come down.
Oh wow.
The full circle is I was very fortunate enough it's in 24, August of 24, to direct an episode of High Potential. They're filming on stages 17, 18, and 19 on the Fox lot. My first scene was almost in the same place where I directed my first scene on Chicago Hope. So I got very,
Wow.
very weepy eyed about the whole
I'll
thing.
bet. Full
And
circle.
full circle. Grey's Anatomy was unbelievably hard because I was so close to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, in a different way than I was on Chicago Hope. I was a newbie then. Grey's, I grew up as a producer, director, and I loved everybody on our cast and crew. And it was a hard thing to leave,
Yeah.
but there's a time for everything, because then what came out of that was my 6-year run on The Resident,
Yeah.
and that was just hard finishing because we were still going strong and it was a good show. And it wasn't that nobody liked the show. It was more at the upper echelons of deal making that it was not continued after 6 seasons. But that took me to Atlanta for 6 years. And so that was just a different energy and something different for me, not just driving from where I am to Silver Lake every day, which could be a hassle.
Well, Rob, you obviously have been well liked throughout your career. I mean, the cast, the crew. I could tell you the crew from Grey's Anatomy and all those years. I mean, we love you, we adore you,
Well, thank you.
and it's nice to be able to build those relationships because we were family, and I know you're family on we're family.
Yeah.
Those of us that get the great opportunity to work in this industry, we go on these shows and we are family, even a movie family. Yet it's a lot shorter. But let me ask you, which I think is important, the current situation of where we are nowadays with, so many of those people that we had once upon a time worked with are not working. A lot of people, the state of our industry right now. Where do you think we are headed?
Boy, I wish I could answer that. it is rough. It's rough for people. I'd like to continue working, but I'm in a stage of my career where okay, nobody's going to feel sorry for me if I'm not working. I feel bad. I feel bad for those who are just starting or have been doing this for a few years, and all of a sudden, there's no opportunities anymore, or there's some, and they're very limited. I have a friend who is working constantly because he got connected with Bill Lawrence and all of his shows. So he goes from his show to show to show. So it's more about being in the right place at the right time, and getting on something. It sounds like things are picking up a little bit. Um, I don't know. I rely on representation, my representation, to tell me this is out there or that's out there or whatever. But to them, it sounds like it's just very slow.
Yeah.
And between the pandemic and then the strike and then the negotiations and
the runaway production.
Yeah, I've had a few friends that are lucky enough to get shows in Budapest, or they go to Canada to work, and I'm thrilled if any of my friends are getting a job. I'm just so happy for them.
Yeah. Well, you have no problem, going out of town, right?
No.
I'm guessing.
No.
Yeah.
My challenge is, I can tell you in a nutshell. For the most part, I've been on 3 shows in my long career. Chicago Hope for 6 years, Grey's Anatomy for 13, and then Resident for 6. So there's 25 years of medical shows that I've earned my nickname Dr. Rob. But so I've been on shows for a long time. So I'm not like a rotating visiting episodic director who gets to meet all these other people. And I say that no, even though I was on these shows and they were very successful and all that, and I'm blessed to be there, nobody really knows me. And my representation says to me, they don't know you, but they know of you. I said, but knowing of me isn't the same thing as knowing me.
Yeah. No, and I totally understand what you're coming from, and it's crazy, but look, you are at in our industry in television, you are at the top. You're pretty much just below the top of the top, right? The showrunners would be there and what have you, right? But you're up there.
I'm glad you're saying that.
No, you're definitely up there.
Okay, I don't see myself as that.
Whereas, background casting directors for years and years, we're way down here. You can't even see us, right? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that even all the connections that I have been able to build over the last, 30 some years, now with everything you just said, right? The pandemic, the strikes, you going out of town, the people that, a lot of the connections that I made years and years ago that have retired or walked away or out of the business or can't survive in the business now, and this and that and whatever. So everything has changed, and you're absolutely right. I try to give advice, and that's why I do this show, Rob. Right. I try to get advice from people like you and others, and just to kind of, help people wherever we can, because things are changing so much and so rapidly.
And you don't know, the hard part is you don't know what they're changing to.
Yes. Yes. I no, you're absolutely right. I want to bring up something else real quick, just because I know we're getting to that time, but this is incredible. I just love this, and we have to do it again. I'd love to have you and maybe your wife on sometime too. The two of you, even what have you. But
I'm not sure she'll go for that. But
well, if she'd like to, look, she's she I'm sure she'd have incredible things to say and advice. So you took I did not know this until I was reading up on it, but you were in a video for Bobby Ross Masterclass for directing.
Oh, boy. Yes, I was. That was years ago.
Well, Bobby was on the show.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah, okay. He was on the show, and I'm in touch with him here and there, But that's great.
He's very active right now.
Yes, he is
very active,
and thank goodness he's out there doing his, doing his thing, and his brother-in-law being Bruce Springsteen. That doesn't hurt. You
Yep.
know. Um, let me ask you real quick, and do I have a few more minutes of your time?
Sure. All right.
Okay,
Go.
great. Working with shows like these medical shows and life and death decisions that you are working with, like how do you keep those moments feeling fresh and real for the audience?
That is that well, that is writing and and acting. What I try and do as a director is put the actors in the space, and unless there's something really really specific that they have to do at a certain point, I'll say to them, just make sure you're there for here, but let's run a rehearsal and see what you do. And
Hmm.
I obviously I don't come into a scene 98% of the time without knowing what I'd like to see. So
Hmm.
the trick is to get the actors to sort of acquiesce to by making suggestions. Oh, what if you start over here? Or, you can still do that same thing, and because what you're also trying to do is minimize the amount of shots you're doing because you're on a time schedule, and all that kind of stuff, the production stuff. But it's what I have found is the writers have an image of what they want to see. The director interprets what the written word is, and they then put their viewpoint into it along with the actors.
Hmm.
Then that film goes to the editor, and the editor, without looking at or talking to the director, unless the director goes up there and says, "This is what I want to see in here," which I very rarely did, and I go up and see the scene cut, and it's completely different than what I thought it was going to be. And I don't know if the writers think it's different, but for me, it's different. And then they put music in, and then and it's a collaboration of all these very experienced, most of the time, experienced people that give life to that work. I don't want to say that it's just the director that does it, or just the actors. It's everybody.
Yeah, it's
So
the whole
yeah,
team.
the
Yeah,
whole
it's the
the
whole
whole
team.
team.
But if you don't have a good writing, like you said, good writing and a good
It,
director to bring it
yes,
out.
it all starts on the page,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that's
Well,
an old saying.
you know, you alluded to a little bit of advice earlier, but in these last couple of minutes here, especially with the changing times and this and that, whatever, should people be more like you, going up to various people on sets if they get to that position of, to move themselves up the ranks, or people who are not in the industry who want to get in, whether it's acting or crew or what have you? What would your best recommendation be to people that are listening?
You know, um, not all people on a film set want to be approached about, can you help me?
Right.
So you have to sort of be have your radar
Yes.
available. But yes, that is a good way to do it. If somebody is just starting and they're able to get a job as a PA on a show, obviously you want to do what your instructions are from the assistant director. You want to make sure you're doing your job there. But if there's downtime or times that you can sort of sneak around the set and observe what all the departments are doing, see what the camera guys are doing, see what the grips are setting a flag, and electricians are up on a ladder putting a light up, and the prop guy is putting the holster on the actor. And if anything strikes you that, oh my God, that looks great, that's really interesting, I could do that, very kindly go up to the person and say, can I pick your brain for a little bit? What you're doing is really fascinating, and it's something that maybe I'm interested in, and can you give me advice on how to get ahead and do that? But right now I got to go lock it up on the other side of the stage,
Yeah. 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 Like, don't be creepy about it. But if
Right.
if the opportunity arises, go up to the
Exactly.
person
Exactly.
and you know.
But the biggest challenge of that my whole scenario is getting that PA job to start with
Yes.
right now, because it's so competitive because of the limited number of jobs out there. But here's the one thing that's changed a lot. Back to your original question,
Yeah.
what's changed? People are making films and television shows on their iPhones,
Camera. Yeah.
and do it.
Yeah.
If you feel like you have something to say, you have a good story to tell, or whatever, make a little movie with your phone. Anybody can do that now. And the trick then is to get that film to somebody who can do something with it. And that's just, you got to keep your eyes and ears open. Who can help me?
Yeah. No, that's great advice, Rob, because there are certainly ways where people could do it now. Like you said, on the phone, uh, get a YouTube channel. A
Right,
lot of a lot of YouTubers, especially influencers now, are getting noticed by producers and people that can help them, right? I mean,
right,
to
right,
push them along.
right.
So,
Yeah, I
um,
don't. I'm hoping there's still people out there that will help the young talent, as I was helped when I was starting. And that's what I try and do whenever I can to help people. I'm part of a mentoring thing that I try and be involved with as much as I can, and it's hard to tell them what to do. I mean, because
yeah,
everybody has their own story on how they got to where they are, and
yeah.
and it's just it's
Yeah,
a
but thank you for doing that, and you're doing it here too. It's the people who want to take um, what you say serious, and it's the people who are really in it for the right reason, the passionate people, the people who want to learn the industry, right? Because you could just say, "Oh, I want to do it because I'm going to meet movie stars or get paid a decent
right,
paycheck,"
right.
but you're not going to last long.
No, no, that's what I said. If you're in it to win an Emmy, you're not going to be doing
Yeah.
this. You're
Yeah,
chasing a false dream.
yeah, yeah. No,
That,
you're right.
that happens, after the whole fact. That's just not you. That's everybody on the team that's put it together.
Yeah, yeah. Rob, real quick, and thank you for all this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Are you what do you do in your free time? Like, because when you are working, you're working a lot. So in your free time, you have family. Like, what do you do? You
Yeah,
mentor? You do all different things.
there's a little bit of mentoring going on. Uh, that's one reason I wouldn't let you have my wife on with me, because all she wants to know is, what am I doing here?
Okay.
Can you please leave the house? I gave up golf when I got really busy. Actually, when we had children, because I couldn't
Mhm.
see working 5 days, really long hours, and then coming home on Saturday and saying to my wife, "I'm going to play golf for 6 hours."
Right.
We wouldn't still
Gonna
be married.
disappear again. Yeah,
So I'm not a golfer. I don't build little model trains. I don't do any of that. So I read, I walk. I keep my fingers crossed that maybe some work will come my way, because I still feel like I have something to offer. But it's a challenge to find a hobby for me.
yeah, yeah.
So we it'll happen, and so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great. Real quick, are you? I say real quick. I mean,
That's
it's
okay.
but are you? Are you more passionate about producing or more passionate about directing?
Well, since I was a producer director, I love them both.
Yeah,
Um, probably. God, that's hard. Um, I'm gonna answer the question by avoiding the direct
taking a
question.
fit.
You know what I'm really passionate about is first ADing. That to
Yeah,
me was the greatest job ever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Isn't
were
that
in
something?
control of you were in control of everything. Now, of course, an
Right.
executive person come in and stomp on you. I don't know if you remember Annette Sutera.
Annette,
Yes.
great. Yeah, loved
So
her.
she came up with me, under me, and all that. And when
Mm.
she was the first AD on Grace, I would come in and say, "Why are you scheduling it this way?" And she would scream at me, "Go away! You're not the first AD anymore. Go away! I'm doing this." Because we had that kind of relationship. You normally
Yeah,
wouldn't do that to an executive producer, but we had that kind of relationship. But um, I guess the directing, because I feel like of my experience, and like I said before, I have a directing ear and a producing. I can also sort of produce in
Yeah.
while I'm directing. Um, though on the flip side, the few episodes that I've done away from shows that I produced, when the producers come to me and say, you have to do this, you have to do that, you got to blah, 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 the actor needs to be out by this and whatever, I just say, okay, I'll do whatever I can to
Yeah.
make it happen. So the pressure of producing sort of went away. Um, so yeah, I would say directing at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
As
Rob, look, I want to thank you so much for your
well,
time. We
thank you
do,
for asking me.
we go way back,
Yes,
and
we
I
do.
know everybody from our Grey's Anatomy family will be tuning in. I know all the people that I know in Atlanta everybody's going to be tuning in, and I am just I'm so pleased to have had you on. I thank you for coming on Rolling with Olin. I wanted to do this show, like I said, to help people. It's something different, and I guess it's my hobby, one of my hobbies.
Yes, no, it's good for
Um,
you.
but I am just so thrilled. Is there anything else you want to say in closing, or?
No, I just want to say thank you for asking me to do this.
Yeah, yeah,
This has been
I appreciate it.
it's really good catching up with you, and I hope whoever watches this, whenever they watch it, can glean some sort of knowledge from it, or say, boy, that guy is a jerk, or
No, no, no. That's no, no, no. They're gonna say, "Wow, he was involved with weird science." I mean,
yeah,
no.
well,
Honestly,
it is astounding that people are freaked out that I did Weird Science and Three Amigos. Those
incredible.
two, yeah. It's like you what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I was I didn't even know that, and I looked
yeah,
you up years ago when we were working, like really working. I was like,
right.
and I didn't even. You don't see that, I suppose. I don't know, or
Well,
whatever.
one
But
thing, like you're saying, the big actors that I may have worked with that nobody knows or remembers was actually my wife was the first AD, I was the second AD on a movie called Terrible Joe Moran, a TV movie that shot in New York. It was James Cagney's last movie.
oh my
So
God.
we had and so we had a chance to work with James Cagney, and Art Carney was in the movie. So
Hmm.
it was like heaven. I mean, how can you do?
Yeah,
And then it's like, and then people are saying weird science.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Rob, you can't get any bigger than that. If you don't know who James Cagney is, folks, look it up. Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to
Go ahead.
say that that's one of the things that I know that I'm so old is that when I was doing The Resident, Emily
Yeah.
Van Camp in particular, she would ask me questions about things that I had done in the past, and I'd say something like, uh, "Well, I did 48 hours," and she'd stare
What's
at
that?
me with a blank
Like,
look.
what's that?
I said, you don't know, you've never heard of 48 hours? And she says, Eddie Murphy. No, it was his first movie. No, no, no. So, I mean, I get that a lot from people, but
Yeah.
then on the other side, it's like, you did Weird Science.
No, it's crazy, and yeah, no, and I get it because even with me working back in the day with Stuart Whitman or Chuck Connors, and when I
Oh
started out, I
God.
mean, same kind of stuff.
That's one of my hobbies. Is from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock is 2 episodes of The Rifleman. My
Oh,
wife
I
goes
love it.
crazy. My
I
wife goes
love it.
crazy. Haven't you seen that 1,000 times?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But every time it's just as good. It's
Yep.
just as good. Rob, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to my audience for rolling with Olin again. Really appreciate you. Source and Cast, thank you for sponsoring this show. All background actors go to sourceandcast.com. I promise you it'll be great for everybody. And thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.